I've always believed in my wife. No second thoughts, no doubts. We've been together for nearly a decade, and while we've had our fair share of rough patches, I truly thought we were solid, unshakable. But lately, something's been off. Over the past few months, she started pulling away. Little things at first. Spending more time glued to her phone. Coming home later than usual with vague explanations that didn't quite add up. I brushed it off in the beginning, convinced I was just overthinking things. But then I noticed how guarded she became with her phone. She never left it lying around anymore. It was always locked, always face down. One night, she headed to bed earlier than usual, leaving her phone on the kitchen table. I happened to walk past when the screen lit up. There it was, a message that stopped me cold. I miss you. Can't wait for tomorrow night. The sender? Just Jay. A name I didn't recognize, and in that moment, my stomach turned. I didn't confront her, not yet. I needed more than just a hunch. The next day, I started paying closer attention. She told me she was having dinner with her friend Amanda. Only Amanda had moved out of state a few weeks ago. She didn't know I knew that. That's when I decided I had to follow her. That evening, she left the house looking casual, but with a kind of effort she hadn't shown in months. Fitted jeans, a plain tee, but her hair was done. Her perfume lingered in the hallway, and she was wearing lipstick again. Lipstick she didn't bother with for me anymore. I waited a bit before getting in the car and trailing behind her. She drove across town and pulled up outside a cozy little restaurant I didn't recognize. From where I parked, I had a clear view of her stepping out of the car and walking toward the entrance. And then he appeared, a man. They embraced like old lovers, and he kissed her gently on the cheek before they disappeared inside. My chest tightened. It was like watching the air get sucked out of my world. Part of me wanted to barge into that restaurant and blow the whole thing up right then and there. But I didn't. I held myself back. If I was going to confront this, I needed to be smart. I needed a plan. Over the next few days, I started digging. Quietly. Carefully. I combed through our joint bank account and found charges at places I'd never stepped foot in. Trendy restaurants, boutique hotels, even a florist. It was like she was living a second life, one I didn't belong in. Then came my opening. I caught her talking on the phone when she thought I was out of earshot. She said, "I can't wait to see you Tuesday night, same place as always." Tuesday rolled around. She left a little after 7 p.m., casually telling me she had to stay late at the office. But by then, I already knew the truth. She wasn't heading to work. She was going to his place. I wasn't about to let that slide. I got to the guy's apartment half an hour before she was supposed to show up. My hands were shaking when I knocked on the door. A few seconds later, it opened, and there he was, Jason. He looked confused, caught off guard. "Who are you?" he asked, eyes narrowing. "What's this about?" "I'm her husband," I said flatly, stepping through the doorway without waiting for an invitation. His face turned ghost white. "You didn't know?" He shook his head, slowly, clearly struggling to piece it all together. Like someone waking up in the middle of a nightmare they didn't know they were in. "She told me you two had split." I couldn't tell if he was bluffing or if he genuinely had no clue. Honestly, I didn't care. Not anymore. I had a plan, and I was going to see it through. "She's on her way here," I told him calmly. "When she knocks, you're going to open the door like nothing's wrong. But the only person she'll see is me." Jason looked rattled, frozen for a second, like he couldn't decide whether to argue or run. But in the end, he gave a small nod. He seemed just as blindsided as I'd been. And weirdly, a part of me believed him. We didn't speak after that. Just waited. A few minutes later, we heard it. A light knock at the door. Jason walked over, opened it, and there she was, smiling, takeaway in hand, like everything was perfectly normal. But the second she spotted me standing behind him, her face fell. That smile vanished in an instant. "Hi, sweetheart," I said, letting the sarcasm drip off every word. She froze. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Her eyes darted between us, panic rising as the reality sank in. "I can explain," she finally whispered, fumbling for something, anything to say. "Go ahead," I said coldly. "Explain how you managed to lie straight to my face. Explain why you're standing here when you told me you were working late. I'm dying to hear this one." She started scrambling for excuses, one after another, each one more far-fetched than the last. She blamed me, of course, said I hadn't been paying attention, that I didn't understand her anymore, that she felt invisible. Right. Classic deflection. All. Then, for the first time since this whole mess started, Jason finally spoke up. "You told me you two had broken up," he said, his voice low and steady. "Was that a lie too?" She spun toward him, eyes wide, reaching out like she could somehow grab the truth out of thin air. "No, Jason, I just didn't know how to—" But he stepped back, shaking his head slowly, like the weight of it all had just hit him. "Did you lie to me too?" he asked, this time with something sharp in his tone. Disgust, maybe. "You know what? I'm done. I don't want any part of this." And just like that, he walked away, disappearing down the hall without another word. She stood there, stunned, her face twisted, part anger, part panic, part something I couldn't even name. But I didn't flinch. I just looked her in the eye and said, "Well, that didn't go quite how you planned it, huh? Hope it was worth it." Then I turned around and walked out the door, not bothering to wait for an answer. That night, I packed a bag and headed straight to a friend's place. I couldn't stay under the same roof with her, not after everything. As I found out later, Jason kept his word. He cut ties completely, blocked her everywhere, vanished from her life like she never existed. She tried reaching out to him, just like she did with me, begging, apologizing, promising change. But it was too little, way too late. She'd burned both bridges with the same match. I pushed forward with the divorce and never looked back. Sure, it hurt. No point pretending it didn't. But honestly, walking away from all that chaos and deceit felt like finally being able to breathe again. It was hard, no doubt, but the peace that came with it made every painful step worth it.